The year is 53 BC. The Roman Republic, a sprawling colossus, stands at the pinnacle of its power. Its armies, the finest and most feared the world has ever known, have conquered a quarter of the known world. The Republic itself, however, is on a knife's edge, teetering between a glorious past and an uncertain future. At the heart of this power struggle is the First Triumvirate, an uneasy alliance of three men: the immensely popular Julius Caesar, the military genius Pompey the Great, and the man driven by a singular obsession for military glory, Marcus Licinius Crassus. Crassus was already the wealthiest man in Rome, his fortune built on land speculation, real estate, and a ruthless business sense. His money was legendary, but it was his military reputation that lagged behind his rivals. While Caesar was conquering Gaul and writing his own history, and Pompey had cleared the Mediterranean of pirates and brought vast new territories into the Roman fold, Crassus's greatest military achievement was the brutal suppression of Spartacus's slave revolt. It was a crucial victory, but it was not the glorious foreign conquest he so desperately craved. His insatiable ambition demanded a final defining triumph to cement his legacy. He plans to invade the Parthian Empire, a formidable foe to the east, whose horsemen and archers were a force unlike anything Rome had ever faced. It was a campaign born of ego and a deep-seated need for respect. Crassus marches his forces, 7 legions, numbering over 40,000 men, with a significant number of cavalry and auxiliaries, deep into the Mesopotamian desert. It is a bold, almost reckless move. The legions, accustomed to fighting in tight, disciplined formations on firm ground, are ill-suited for the vast open plains of the east. Crassus, however, is so blinded by the prospect of glory and the lure of Parthian riches that he ignores the warnings of his allies, the grim realities of the terrain, and the warnings of a local king who advised a less direct route. He is marching his men into a trap, but a trap he believes his superior Roman might can easily overcome. The trap is sprung at a place called Carrhae. On a sweltering summer day, the Parthian army, led by their brilliant commander Surena, appears on the horizon not as a disciplined legion, but as a swarm of mobile, deadly horse archers. The Roman military machine was built on strength, discipline, and a wall of steel. The Parthian military machine was built on speed, endurance, and an endless stream of arrows. The Romans form a defensive square, a testament to their unbreakable discipline. But the Parthians do not engage in a head-on clash. Instead, they ride in circles, their archers raining down an endless storm of arrows, each shot with pinpoint accuracy and devastating force. The air is thick with the sound of thousands of whistling arrows and the thud of them hitting shields. The Romans, trapped in their formation, can do nothing but endure the relentless barrage. The Roman ranks are decimated. Arrows pierce shields, armor, and flesh. The Parthians do not run out of ammunition. Their camels carry an endless supply of arrows, allowing them to keep up the assault for hours without rest. As the battle drags on, the Roman formation begins to crumble. Crassus's son, Publius, in a desperate attempt to break the siege, charges with a cavalry unit, but he is quickly surrounded and killed. His head is mounted on a spear as a grim message to the Romans. The sight of Crassus's son's head must have sent a wave of despair through the Roman lines, a moment of psychological collapse that sealed their fate. The once unbreakable Roman spirit was broken. The Parthian secret weapon, however, was yet to be fully deployed. Surena had held his most terrifying force in reserve, his cataphracts. These were heavily armored cavalrymen, clad from head to toe in thick bronze and iron mail, their horses also protected by plated armor. These living tanks charged into the Roman infantry, smashing through their weakened lines. The Roman swords and spears, designed to fight unarmored foes, were nearly useless against the cataphracts. Crassus is cornered and in a final act of humiliation is killed. His head is brought to the Parthian king who, legend says, pours molten gold into his mouth as a final cruel gesture, a symbol of the ambition that led to his downfall. The rest of the Roman army is in full retreat. Out of over 40,000 soldiers, only a small fraction escapes. The rest are killed, captured, or simply vanish. The Roman forces scattered in a desperate attempt to survive, some trying to retreat to the nearest Roman outpost, others simply running into the desolate landscape, hoping to find a way home. But for a full legion, this hope would prove to be in vain.
The Vanishing Act. The defeat at Carrhae was a catastrophic blow to Roman pride. But what happened next would become one of the most enduring mysteries of the ancient world. Out of the 40,000 men who marched with Crassus, about 20,000 were killed in battle. Another 10,000 were captured and marched away. But what about the remaining 10,000? History records that they simply disappeared. There is no official record of their fate. They were not seen again, not in Rome, not in the Parthian Empire. This is the story of the Lost Legion, a group of 10,000 disciplined, hardened soldiers who at the peak of their military prowess vanished from the historical record. Their fate has puzzled historians for centuries, giving rise to some of the most compelling and outlandish theories in the annals of history. For the Roman Republic, this was not just a military defeat, it was a national trauma. The loss of an entire legion, the gold standards with the eagle of Rome, was a humiliation that demanded answers, but none were ever found. The legion's eagle, the Aquila, was its soul. To lose it was an unthinkable shame, a stain on the Republic's honor. The news of the defeat sent a shockwave through Rome. Crassus's death removed one of the three pillars of the triumvirate, destabilizing the political landscape and setting the stage for the civil war that would erupt between Caesar and Pompey. The public mourned the dead, but they also demanded answers for the missing. What happened to them? Why did they simply vanish? The Roman government, with the full weight of the state's intelligence and military resources, launched a search, but the vast, arid lands of Parthia swallowed the legion whole. Theory 1. The Annihilation Theory. The most grim and perhaps the most plausible theory is that the Lost Legion simply met a grisly end. After the Battle of Carrhae, the Parthians captured thousands of Roman soldiers. These men were not treated as prisoners of war. They were treated as slaves. Many were likely put to work on massive construction projects or sent to fight in distant, forgotten corners of the Parthian Empire on the border of a land called Margiana. The sheer distance and difficulty of escape would have made it nearly impossible for them to return to Rome. Their life would have been a hell of hard labor, isolation, and disease. A Roman legionary, trained for combat, would have been forced to dig canals, quarry stones, or toil in fields under a scorching sun. It's a brutal and simple explanation, but it lacks the definitive proof of a mass grave or a historical account of their mass execution. It is perhaps too simple a solution for such a complex and enduring mystery. The silence from the Lost Legion suggests a finality, a complete break from their past lives. It's a plausible, albeit grim ending to their story, one that leaves little room for hope. Theory 2, the Assimilation Theory. A less brutal but equally fascinating theory is that the soldiers of the Lost Legion were not killed, but assimilated. The Parthians, known for their pragmatic approach to foreign fighters, may have taken these Romans and integrated them into their society. The soldiers, now cut off from their home and with no hope of return, would have little choice but to adapt. They would have married local women, had children, and over time lost their Roman identity.
Over the generations, their descendants would have become part of the local population, their Roman heritage diluted and forgotten, a mere whisper in their bloodlines. This theory is supported by some historical records from the Parthian Empire, which mention foreign mercenaries, but the lack of any significant historical or archaeological evidence makes it difficult to confirm. It's a plausible, human story, but it lacks the dramatic flair that would capture the imagination for centuries. The cultural blending of a Roman disciplined soldier with the nomadic equestrian culture of the Parthians would have been a fascinating social experiment, one that we can only speculate about. The idea that their Roman bloodline lives on, hidden in the veins of a distant people, is a powerful and romantic notion. We can only imagine a centurion, his glory long past, teaching his grandson about Roman discipline while living a life of peace and farming. Theory 3, the Chinese connection. Now for the most captivating and highly debated theory, one that blends history with a tale that feels more like fiction than fact. The story takes us over 3,000 miles to the east, to the edge of the known world, and to an ancient superpower that had no idea Rome even existed, the Han Dynasty of China. The Han Empire, at the time, was a flourishing civilization, the eastern counterpart to the Roman Republic in terms of power, culture, and influence. They were, however, completely isolated from the West, their only contact being through the long and arduous Silk Road trade routes, a path fraught with danger and mystery. According to the Book of Han, an official historical record, in the year 36 BC, 17 years after the Battle of Karhi, a Chinese army, led by the general Chen Tang, was fighting a battle in modern-day Kazakhstan against a nomadic tribe. What the Chinese general saw on the battlefield was utterly baffling. A group of about 100 mercenaries, fighting for the enemy, formed a strange formation, a defensive square with overlapping shields. The Chinese scribes described it as a fish-scale formation. This was the testudo formation, a quintessentially Roman military tactic. The Chinese had never seen anything like it. This strange group of mercenaries also used a defensive palisade made of logs, another signature Roman military engineering technique. The Chinese army easily defeated the nomadic tribe, but they captured this strange group of soldiers. They were, according to the records, a tribe of men of golden hair and blue eyes. This detail is crucial. While golden hair and blue eyes are not exclusively Roman traits, they were common in the Roman army, which was filled with soldiers from across Europe. Here is where the story gets even more incredible. The Chinese general, intrigued by their skills, took these captured soldiers back with him. A few years later, a town was founded on the border of the Han Empire, a place to settle these foreign soldiers. The town was called Li Qian. Li Qian is the Chinese transliteration for Alexandria, the ancient Greek name for Rome. Could this be it? Could this be where the Lost Legion ended up? This theory, while fantastical, has a compelling narrative arc, a lost army finding a new home at the very edge of the world. The modern evidence and scientific controversy. For centuries, this was just a footnote in ancient history, a fantastical tale with no modern evidence. But in the 20th and 21st centuries, archaeologists and geneticists decided to put this theory to the test. In the village of Liqian, a modern-day settlement, a number of villagers were found to have physical characteristics that were highly unusual for the region: blonde hair, blue or green eyes, and even a significantly larger-than-average nose. In 2005, a DNA study was conducted on the villagers. The results were astounding. A number of the villagers, particularly those with European features, had DNA that was more closely related to people of European descent than to their Chinese neighbors. Could this be the smoking gun, the final piece of evidence that the Lost Legion made it all the way to China? Not so fast. The evidence, while tantalizing, is not conclusive. The DNA samples were too small to be definitive. While some of the villagers have European DNA, it could have come from a number of sources over the centuries, including from Silk Road traders, nomadic tribes with European heritage, or even from later periods of contact. There are also no Roman artifacts that have been found in the village itself, only in the surrounding areas. The entire theory rests on a few lines in a Chinese historical text and a modern genetic study that is more suggestive than definitive. The scientific community is deeply divided on the matter, and many scholars dismiss the connection as a modern-day myth. The lack of an official Roman military presence in the area remains a huge hole in the theory. Alternative and fringe theories. While the assimilation and Chinese theories are the most popular, the mystery has given rise to other, more esoteric explanations. One theory suggests the legion, broken and demoralized, abandoned their identities and simply melted into the vast landscape of Central Asia, becoming a nomadic tribe or a group of bandits. This theory is hard to prove, as it leaves no trace, but it speaks to the desperation and chaos of the aftermath of Kerai. Another, more outlandish theory points to a massive, undiscovered natural event. Could a massive landslide or a freak sandstorm have buried the entire legion, leaving no trace? While unlikely, it underscores the completeness of their disappearance. One last chilling theory suggests that the legionaries, facing starvation and death in the desert, turned on each other in a desperate fight for survival, the ultimate breakdown of Roman discipline. The enduring legacy. The disappearance of the legion had a lasting impact on Rome. The defeat at Kerai became a symbol of hubris and a warning against underestimating a foreign foe. The loss of the legion's standards, the golden eagles that symbolized the very soul of the army, was a national humiliation. It became a point of contention between Rome and Parthia for decades. The Roman people demanded the return of the standards, a symbol of their honor. Years later, under Emperor Augustus, they were finally recovered through diplomacy, not force, a huge propaganda victory that erased the stain of defeat. The story of the Lost Legion was not just a military failure, it was a cultural scar. The fate of 10,000 men remains an enduring puzzle, a ghost story of the ancient world. They may have been killed, they may have been assimilated, or they may have marched over 3,000 miles to a new life. We will likely never have a definitive answer. The legacy of the Lost Legion, however, lives on. It is a testament to the incredible, often unbelievable journeys of the human spirit. The vast expanse of history, like the plains of Mesopotamia, holds many secrets, and the legend of the lost Roman legion is one we may never fully uncover. The mystery's power lies in its blank spaces, allowing us to fill them with our own fascination and theories, from a simple tragic end to an incredible transcontinental odyssey.